We need to cultivate that. I mean, failure is terrifying, but failure is a habit you need to kind of cultivate as well, because nothing good comes unless you get it wrong a few times.
You're listening to the CFL Podcast, where possibility is at work. Here, we explore what it means to empower learners, connect communities, create impact, and help Nevada thrive. Each episode shares stories and ideas from the people reimagining what learning can look like in our community and beyond. Because when we learn, build, and dream together, anything is possible.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the CFL Podcast. Today we're joined by Daz Weller. Daz Weller is an amazing individual and a good friend. Here's what you should know about him. He is a producer, a director, and a creative entrepreneur in our community. Something else you should know about Daz? Daz has been doing this work and reshaping the way we think about education, learning, arts, and media right here in Las Vegas and across the world, really. And here's the third thing that you should know about Daz as we get into this conversation. Daz most recently helped start Third Street and acts as their CEO. Third is and will be an amazing hub for learning. It is going to be a place where young people and adults alike can produce, can create, can bring Vegas entertainment and education to life in one space. It is this modular, amazing space where creativity comes to life. And we're so excited to partner with Third Street at CFL this summer with some of our work with youth. But we're really excited to introduce you to Daz on today's podcast so we can have a conversation about learning more broadly. So here we go. Welcome, Daz.
Hi, Sean. Thanks for having me. That's a lot to live up to.
I think it's exciting for me to say all those things out loud because I'm sure you don't get your flowers always when you're in the nitty-gritty of the work and the backstage doing the work, but now you're here on our podcast, so I get to say all those
Thank
things.
you. It does feel good. Yeah, no, you're right. Like in a leadership position, you're often giving credit. Like that's part of the job, you know. So it's nice to get a little like, oh yeah, I did that.
You did it, and you're doing it, and you have a great team behind you, I'm sure. But you have been a really important part of that team. So thank you for not only doing that, but then being here and being able to share it with us. My first question for you, Daz, is like, obviously, we think all the time about learning, about education, about like rethinking the way that the world is working. And so I'm curious, what's something in education or the learning space that many people still accept as normal, but you think is outdated or ready to change?
Look, I think it's probably around the way we structure education. You know, that there's kind of by necessity a lot of times that learning happens within the same age group, with subjects taught in isolation, with a certain required amount of seat time, and the idea of that you get a final grade. I think that structure is not completely irrelevant and is absolutely necessary in some ways, but I think is probably ready to be augmented or expanded to accommodate the needs of our students and the needs of the future workforce.
I love that you say that, and it reminds me that there's something I missed in your introduction, which is you're also a dad of two, and you work with kids all the time. So it's not like this is something that you haven't seen. You're seeing this in your own home, in your own spaces, and you have to think about and reconcile what is the difference in what's happening in our schools and what's happening in Third Street now, or what's the possibility of happening in Third Street. So I love the way that you think about that. Maybe we don't have to do things exactly the way they were.
Yeah. It's a challenging position to be in, and I really feel for any parent out there. Certainly a parent of preteens and teens who are really starting to enter that place where society is saying, who are you? What do you want to do? What are the skills you need to develop? How are you going to do that? What are your responsibilities right now? How are you going to ever be an adult in this world? It's a lot of pressure when you don't really know yourself. And so to see it under my roof, I've got two 13-year-olds. And then, to see it out in the workplace as well, I'm very empathetic towards the parent and also towards the student.
And probably all the educators out there trying their best. Gosh, it is a tough time to be doing this work of raising kids in a very rapidly changing world that is tough to navigate. So what I'd love to know is, like, in your own experiences, what's one that fundamentally changed the way that you learn, the way that you lead, or the way that you see the world? Like, what in your own background has changed your mind about things?
There's so many, looking back, when you get to a leadership position and you look back, you're like, how did I get here? Like, how did this even happen? And so to track back and find those key moments, there are dozens, if not hundreds of them through the decades. I think early on, there's some experiences that definitely shaped me. I was 12 years old. A friend of mine came up to me at school and was like, "Hey, DJ," because my friends used to call me DJ.
I love that. Insider information.
Hey, DJ, do you want to, a friend of mine just pulled out of the play we're doing. Do you want to be in it? And I was like, what's a play? And she was like, oh, it's just like a story, but you put it on stage. I was like, yeah, okay. So I turned up to her drama group and ended up being in this play that I'd never done before, and never even knew the concept of a play, and learned the lines and ended up on stage in front of an audience, and it was part of an Eisteddfod, so it was a competitive thing, and it turned out that we'd won, but that wasn't the sort of the defining moment of it. The defining moment was actually I understood myself in a way that I hadn't before. I was a desperately shy child, and so to be able to take on words that weren't mine, and to be able to present them in a way and communicate with an audience, I think at the end of the show, I remember like standing there in front of that applause, which was sort of a gift in itself. But I understood something about myself that I'd put myself down for, that I was telling myself that I was shy, that I couldn't communicate, that I didn't kind of belong in those conversations. And what this taught me was that, oh no, I did, and I could. And so it gave me, it opened a door to me that really set the path on where I am today. It's amazing those things that you decide or you say yes to when you're sort of ignorant and brazen and young and like you don't really understand your body or your mind at all. And you're like, yeah, I'll do that. And that decision ends up kind of being a choice that shapes you. Now I'm 47 years old. It's 35 years later that a choice you made when you were 12 ends up having relevance to you as an adult, even though I look back, I look at that kid, I'm like, I don't recognize a lot of who I am now in that kid, but that decision that kid made was right for me now. And so that opened up a whole, world of opportunities of sort of being able to step forward into the unknown and be in environments that were uncomfortable and new. So I mean, I could list hundreds of them, and we'd be here for days.
Well, what I love about the example that you shared is there's like two aspects of it, like the pre and then the post.
Right.
So one of the things I pick up from before the moment where you said yes, you had to have at least some sort of open mind to saying yes, because I imagine a lot of young people or adults now, mostly actually adults, when asked, "Do you want to be in the play?" might say no. There's
right.
I'm not open. I have a closed mindset around this. You said, sure, why not? Not knowing. So there was something in you, this like curiosity that was ready to take on what the unknown was. And then there's this aspect of while you're in it and during it, it's like saying yes to a play is not the same thing as saying yes to an assignment in a classroom.
Right.
Because you're on the stage, you're performing in public, you're getting the applause. It's like you tested something that you hadn't tested before, but it was like out in the real world. It was out in front of an audience, which so often I think in school environments, young people are doing things like that nobody will ever see, and they just don't think it matters because oftentimes it doesn't matter. But I think it's just so powerful that one moment and the butterfly effect it had on the rest of your life, obviously, the work that you're doing now. But that's incredible. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah,
story.
I think that, that's something that, not that I knew it logically at the time, but being able to say yes when the opportunity presents itself, provided it's safe, that you're not acting on fear, that, like really analyzing, like, am I saying no to this because I'm scared or because I genuinely fear for my safety here? And so if it's just because of fear, then I think, the best things happen from those places. Nothing great happens without kind of stepping forward into the unknown.
Yeah, so there's like some saying, like if you're not at least a little afraid, you're probably doing the wrong thing. It's
Right.
like you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
Because then we're too safe. We're in
Yeah.
a bubble. We're not actually experiencing anything, learning, growing. So
But I wonder, like thinking about it, I wonder what had happened before that point that allowed me to say yes. And like my childhood was, I'm one of four, and was in a sort of a structured school environment, public school, but really had a lot of autonomy from a young age, as a lot of us kind of Gen Xers or Zennials did, to kind of explore and be who I needed to be on the weekends and after school. And yeah, that old kind of trope of like, we'll just come home before the sun goes down. That was, I think there's a lot of permission in that. There's a lot of opportunity to take a risk and make a mistake and fail and realize that it's not the end of the world. And so, yeah, would be interested to sort of track why I was able to say yes in that moment.
I think today the term that a lot of people use is that kids are coddled and they're not ready to take on those yeses. They're not saying those. So I do wonder if there's a generational shift or something in the way that you were raised or your experiences, your environments that led you to do that. But I think we really need to be aware of it for young people today. Are they in spaces where they are ready to say yes, to analyze, not yes to everything?
Right.
Kids, if you're watching, don't say yes to everything. Like, there's some things you shouldn't be saying yes to, but to the play. Say yes to the play, don't say yes to some things. But I think there is something in our experiences that lead us to be ready to say yes to that moment, to that opportunity, really, when it's provided and presented. So
Yeah. We need to cultivate that. I mean, failure is terrifying, but failure is a habit you need to kind of cultivate as well, because nothing good comes unless you get it wrong a few times.
I wasn't going to ask you this question, so I don't know if you have an example, but has there been a time in your learning journey or your leadership journey where failure was instrumental in something that you've learned or changed as a result?
I mean, all the time. Now I direct a lot of plays, and there's so much work and so much collaboration that goes into getting a story on the stage. And always, without fail, I sit back and I watch it, and there's 1,000 things I want to be different or clearer or stronger or things I've missed. And they're my perspectives, and like the play objectively for an audience may be great, but just getting comfortable with the fact that this, certainly within the arts, when you're creating something from nothing, when you're building something new, that there's no right or wrong. And that you're not gonna get everything in one package, that it's never kind of finished. That's where I take great pride in cleaning floors, because, you set out to clean a dirty floor, you work hard to clean it, and at the end, you've got a clean floor. It's very satisfying.
Yeah.
But in the creative world, I feel like there's this sense that it's never finished, that it's never done. And so being able to get comfortable with that ambiguity is really important, and failure is a huge part of it. So I think that wasn't a specific example, but it's an everyday example, every single day.
It's like you eat, breathe success and failure all the time, and you learn from it, which I love. So let's pivot and think a little bit about today's learners, whether that's young people or adults that are in learning spaces, but we particularly focus on young people. And a big part of your vision for Third Street as an innovation hub is to make sure that young people have learning experiences that are relevant, that are preparing them for those spaces. And so I'm curious, what do you believe young people are craving, are wanting right now in their learning spaces that the learning system currently isn't providing?
I think this is universal, and I think in education it's probably always been the same, regardless of the circumstances that we're in now compared to where we were 20, 40, 50, 100 years ago. And I know students want to feel like what they're learning is relevant, I think is really important. They're like, how does this apply? Why do I need to know this? I think they crave agency, so the ability and the landscape in which they can make choices and fail gloriously or succeed gloriously as well in making those choices, but that they get to own those choices. then, to round it out, I think it's belonging as well. It's like, am I being seen? Are you seeing me right now? Because I am a unique individual. Yes, we grow up in community. We're social animals, but we're individuals as well. And I think in that, like that classical model of education is still relevant in some ways, that we are rational and moral and social beings, and all of those parts of us need to be nurtured.
I think you've picked up on a few really important points. I hear those all the time, like the relevancy point, the agency point, the sense of belonging, knowing who I am, but also those connections. What do you see the difference in the world? We've a little bit touched on it with your own story, but how has the world changed as you have seen it in those learning spaces that make those elements even more important today? Like, why is it we're hearing such a roar of people demanding more agency, more relevance? Like, what is changing around us that is leading to that? Is it just young kids are getting smarter? Like, what's happening?
Right. I think we're social animals. We crave community. The reason we have come to develop the technology that we have that's now, that we're now tripping over, is because we've built it through community and through society. And so as we are becoming more fragmented and polarized and isolated, I think inside us, as these beings who are not, like physiologically not very far evolved from where we were thousands of years ago, we're still craving that learning through community and connection and collaboration and storytelling. And so, and to be relevant in a group, to be a part of a group. And it doesn't matter if you are a young person or a middle-aged person or an older person, you want to be relevant in the group. And so even as a 6-year-old, you want to know, how do I fit in here? Like, what's my role? And so I don't know that the yearning for that has grown, but I think the obstacles around creating that and cultivating that have certainly increased.
Two pictures pop into my mind when you're talking very polar opposites. So one is I'm picturing like ancient peoples in a cave.
Sure.
I don't know why. And like just thinking that they were, how funny would it be if there was a classroom there and they're teaching something like, history in this cave. Like, you should remember Joe Schmo over there did this thing, and the kid's like, why is that relevant? Teach me how to make fire. Like, they want to do the relevant things. And now I picture like the first things we think about in prehistoric people are like making fire, cave paintings, like displays of things that actually matter are probably the things that human brains have evolved to care about. So I think you're right. It's not that different today. Like, what are the real projects that kids can work on to bring those to life? And then on the very opposite end, I'm thinking like of a cell phone and just classes of kids. We had a experience 3 summers ago where we hired young people, and they were amazing young people. But they walked into the room, like all 14 of them on their phones, looking down in the same space, knowing that they're all craving connection, but this is like literally a wall that we have a society given kids, and so put up this wall and pretend it's connection. Right. Because you get to like talk to somebody digitally, and it's not a real connection. So
no, there's I think there's 2 points that you raised that are great. In the back in the cave, those stories, that knowledge, it needs to be passed on because that's how we survive. And I think there's a survival imperative built into education now. That's why workforce training. It's like, what does that even mean? Well, it means you can go out into the world and get a job and make money so that you can survive in the world, because we live in, a world where money is important in that sense. It's no different to teaching about, fire and this is a dangerous creature, this is an edible creature, this is both, so be careful. So I think that imperative hasn't changed. And then, the cell phone is a major dissociator. And I've seen it in, as you have, everywhere. I teach Theatre 105 at UNLV, and it's a theatre, introduction to theatre for non-majors. So there's nursing students, engineering, architecture students, and every single year they'll walk into class, no one's making eye contact. Everyone's on their phone. they are engaging with me through a device. But by the end of that course, there's the way they're using that device is different. There's group chats, they're engaged, they come in, they see each other, they know what it is to build an idea in a room with other people. And so I think it's not an either or. But we need to teach our kids to understand what that is. And the editorial process involved in using it as well, in creating anything on your phone and communicating in that way, that we need to understand that there's an editorial process. Whether you're conscious of it or not, you're choosing what to include and what to exclude. You might be doing a live video, but you're still framing it. You're still presenting yourself in a certain way. And you don't have those editorial guardrails when you're in a room with others. You're going to be put on the spot. You're going to be asked to answer questions, potentially. You're going to communicate with your words, which are absolutely integral to who we are and everything that we build. But mostly you're going to be communicating with your physical body, and you have less opportunities to edit that experience. It's more vulnerable and it's riskier to be in that place. And so that's why, the learning environment we're trying to create at Third Street is really about turning up. Like, let's turn up and do this together. Not that there's not remote opportunities available, because there will be and they're necessary. But actually, when you turn up in a room with others and you put on the spot to build something that didn't exist before, the growth that can happen in that environment, personally and within the group, is sort of exponential compared to what you can get remotely.
I love that. I think of it's like we live in a 3D world, and I think of those experiences where people are on Zoom meetings, and there were studies about how fatigued people would get because they're like monitoring themselves through the frame of the 2D world. Right. And sometimes it's exhausting to do that. And our phones exist to it's like a retreat into 2D, even though we're out here in the 3D world. Mm-hmm. And I love the way, let's talk about Third Street. 10 years from now, Third Street just started, so it's a little bit putting you on the spot. Take us 10 years into the future. You and your team are creating something really special at Third Street. It hasn't really been done before. It started, that building is an old movie theater in the downtown arts core of Las Vegas, and you're taking it over and saying, that's great, film is so important, but let's make this a hub for arts, for innovation, for learning. Mm-hmm. What is that going to look like 10 years from now? I know you can't predict it. There's going to be lots of failures along the way, but if the work is going well, if things are happening, what's your dream?
In 10 years' time, hopefully I'll be it'll be my final year. And I can leave happy because the building is functioning in a way that, and I say the building because, buildings are important. We often value them way too highly because it's not really about the building. We need to design for the programs inside it and for the human beings inside it. So what happens inside it? Ideally, we're opening our doors at 6 a.m. every day. There's a ground floor experience for people to come and grab coffee in the community, to co-work together within the arts and media communities. That there'll be classes happening, there'll be students arriving to fulfill a part of whatever their requirements are in system, that will be happening through the day. We'll also be rehearsing and producing work during the day. So there'll be resident companies involved, creating theatre, opera, film, immersive environments wherever the market demands are. And then in the evening there'll be performances and presentations and productions and collaborative sort of environments for engaging in the creative process and also for learning. I mean, the education is really embedded in everything that we do. And so the goal is that you won't be able to look at any piece of what's happening at Third Street without being able to track the education component attached to it. Because it's not just about building up the things we have, it's about bringing people with us, building an audience and building a creative ecosystem that can sustain itself over time. And so the spaces we're building are modular for that very reason. We want to be responsive. I don't know the answers, and that's something that being in the creative field has taught me is that you don't need all the answers. Yes, be very prepared before you go into something, but remain curious, and you don't have to be the expert in the room, but maybe you need to be the person who's asking the best questions to kind of stimulate the group. And so the spaces we're building are modular. What might look like a theatre one day will look like a soundstage the next, and will be a classroom the next. And so we can be responsive to the needs of our growing creative economy.
What I love about the vision that you have is that it's creativity across so many different sectors of arts and entertainment, and it's education native. So it's like really thinking about not just production, but bringing people along the experience, almost like an apprenticeship model, a learning while you do model. Mm-hmm. It's like real world project-based learning, we would say, in a K-12 education setting. Right. But that is to the next level because it's really meaningful work. You're going to have young people and adults in there retraining to actually produce something that is going to be public in a week.
Right.
And that is, you learn on the job, go do. That's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah. The basic ethos is you turn up, you work with people better than you, and you get better at what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's called all different things. Applied learning, learn by doing.
All the things. And there's funding for all the things. So get some there's federal funding for apprenticeship programs now. And you're doing apprenticeship programs. So how do we make sure that the right dollars flow to these opportunities? Because we're in Las Vegas.
Right.
They say it's the sports and entertainment capital of the world. So how are we cultivating that entertainment workforce in a way that is really helping our community thrive? And you're really thinking about that at 3rd Street.
We want to be able to create a model that's replicable as well. I think, looking at what's happening in system and with CTE instruction, there's a real gap in terms of being able to find work placement for CTE students in that second and third year. And so we want to be able to solve some of those problems, not just within our industry, but for others, to be like, okay, so if you want to bring minors on site to participate in your workforce, here are some steps you can go through. We've done it. They've done it over in this industry, because it's terrifying, especially if you're a small to mid-sized business and you're at capacity already. The idea of straining your resources to provide that opportunity is tough. And so building a framework and systems that are easily replicable across industries is something I'd love to be able to, to pilot. Because I think, it's the only way we're really going to change things. The in-system education is a big, unwieldy, bureaucratic system. It changes slowly. And it won't solve all of our problems. But we need to solve our problems on the outside. And so I think it's important that anyone in a leadership position or anyone who's ever learned anything, there comes a point where you need to see yourself as the teacher and give yourself credit for having information that can be passed on. And so to make those opportunities available when someone presents themselves to you and you're like, oh, I have a knowledge gap, they have a knowledge gap that I can fill here, that you become the teacher in the room, that everyone has to be a teacher in our society to kind of support this system that is not filling all our needs right now.
I think obviously no shade to teachers. I'm a former teacher. I love teachers, work with teachers. And they play such a critical role in our world and in our communities. And some of my best teachers are the informal teachers and opportunities that I've gotten, like the on-the-work training. My own family members have been some of my best teachers, but also the example that you gave, like in some ways that 12-year-old you getting asked to do that was that teachable moment to go into those spaces, right? It's like, where are we always seeking opportunities to learn when for all of us, and then when we're seeking opportunities to teach, we should all be sharing that wisdom. And what do they say? Like, once you've made it, extend a hand and bring somebody else up with you. And I don't think we're doing that enough.
Yeah. And it's not a fixed thing. I mean, there's input and output, and there'll be times in your life where you need input, and so you'll be the student. And there are times in your life where you're ready for output and where you need to engage in that way. And that's fluid and will always change. So we need to be kind of aware of where we're at and what we can offer, and give ourselves credit for the things that we can impart.
So speaking of learning from people, Daz, who is somebody that you think is shaping the future of learning that people should be thinking about learning from, and why? Who's that person? What signals are they pointing to? What are you seeing out in the world?
I'm going to give you an answer that's sort of related to what we're talking about, but maybe not super satisfying. But I think I want to give credit to people who are, in an ad hoc way, being teachers in their own communities. I mean, full credit to our formal teachers, our content experts who are out there in the field doing this professionally. But I think anyone who's out there seeing themselves as someone who can be a mentor or a teacher and is not asking permission to do that, but taking that on, whether it's in their own household or in their own communities, then I think that's absolutely key to how we grow and build a new model for what education looks like. We're so good at compartmentalizing things and legislating things and providing too many guardrails for how systems work. And I think we need to be a little more fluid with how we approach that. And so, yeah, my hat is off to anyone who's out there doing that.
I love that. All-encompassing answer, and it gets you off the hook for shouting specific people out. DJ/Daz over here is living into the pluralistic approach to this, and I appreciate it. I have some rapid fire questions for you.
Oh, damn.
Okay. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay. Just your first gut instinct. No, don't think it. Don't overthink it. All right. You ready?
Sure.
AI in education. Is it a creative partner or a chaos machine?
Creative partner.
All right. Grades in education. Useful feedback or performance theater?
Useful feedback.
College. Primary pathway or one option among many?
One option.
All right. Real learning happens most in, you got to choose one, school, mentors, community, internet, or hands-on experiences?
Community.
And one word only. The future of learning is?
Ours.
Ooh, I like that. The possessive. That is awesome. I did not expect those answers from you necessarily. And I love that one of our questions is feedback or performance theater, knowing that you're in theater.
Right. Yeah, no, I think, I think the system is necessary. Like what's happening is necessary. But I think, leading into this idea that our teachers are content experts and that, students need to just absorb information from them all day is not helpful. That actually we need to augment that with applied learning and, giving those students the autonomy to build their world.
What's, Daz, something that if somebody's listening to this and they don't know anything about Third Street and they want to help, they want to be a part of the future that you're describing and building that 10-year vision, the modular vision, the learning vision, what's something they should do? Or if they want to just like be a member or learn from or come to Third Street, what's something that the listener should know about that? How can they be a part of it?
Well, I mean, we're a startup at the moment. We're bootstrapping it, as they say. We're really using the resources that we have to build the thing that we want to build. We've reached there's a real alignment here of some things that I don't want to go away. We have a landlord who is understanding of our needs and has given us a runway to be inside the building that we're in. I mean, in commercial real estate, this is an anomaly. It's normally just a profit incentive for property owners, and they get where we're at, and they're arts educated and arts practitioners as well as being very wealthy tech startup guys. So we have that as a runway. That's terrific. We're also at this point where Vegas is on the verge of need an inflection point where we get to choose where we're going to put our resources right now. And what that means is we get to choose what we value. And so we're seeing lots of new developments pop up, and that says who we are. And I want to make sure that included in that mix, we are valuing arts, media, and arts education, which I think is really going to be the hero of the future in terms of we call them soft skills, but in terms of the soft skills that offers. So this is a long-winded way of answering your question, but I think there's two ways to engage. One, if you have the means, then we have a fundraising goal to meet. And
donate to Third Street.
Donate to Third, but also lend your talents and your skills to us as well. If you want to get involved, there will be a place for you. Reach out. Go to the website, fill out the inquiry form. We get back to everyone who fills it out. There are so many moving parts to this thing. We really do need a small army of people to make it happen. And so whether you're an audience member, whether you're engaged in the operating component of what we're doing, or whether you want to be a piece of how we put the capital stack and the funding together, then all of that is necessary right now.
Support Third. We need places like Third to be successful, for our community to be successful and thrive. I don't like it, but one of the critiques I hear about our own city is that Vegas doesn't value the arts. It doesn't have culture is actually the thing I hear most. There's no culture in Vegas, which I think is just people coming from another space and imposing what they assumed their community was onto our community. And the reality is we have an opportunity to invest in the cultural richness of Vegas through Third and through some of the work in the arts. And so if people say that, do something about it.
Exactly.
Invest.
Exactly. And the argument is not wrong. In some ways it's right, and in some ways it's wrong. But we need more spaces where we can lift up our voices. We have a really unique perspective on the world coming from Las Vegas and living within this place, which is very representative of what the future of America kind of looks like demographically. And so we're at a point where we really need to be investing in physical spaces where our voices can learn to speak and also provide reach so that we can speak outside of our city, outside of our state, and maybe, take ideas out into the rest of North America or the world.
Or the world. One closing question for you, Daz. Okay. What's one shift that schools, communities, or leaders could make right now to bring us closer to the future of learning?
Maybe I'm beating the same drum, but I think be a teacher. Be a teacher. And whether that's formal or informal, I think let's not point the finger at others to be like, this is your job to teach our next generation. It is all of our jobs. We learn in community. We are social animals. And so it's all of our responsibility. And so whether that teaching happens through direct instruction, whether it happens through modeling behavior and a life that you want your children or those who are looking to you for that modeling to absorb, then just make sure you're seeing yourself as a teacher.
Thank you so much for being here on our podcast. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And hopefully you get a chance to go visit, support, and be part of Third Street and be part of teaching somebody something, whether that's there or somewhere else in your own lives. And have a great day.
Thanks, Sean. This is great.
You're listening to the CFL Podcast, where possibility is at work. Here, we explore what it means to empower learners, connect communities, create impact, and help Nevada thrive. Each episode shares stories and ideas from the people reimagining what learning can look like in our community and beyond. Because when we learn, build, and dream together, anything is possible.